Waihascochalt in Chasquisai I. My name's John Sirois. I'm a citizen of the Caldwell Confederated Tribes. I'm a Medhow descendant. I'm also Piscosa descendant, Sukanokane, Wenatchee and Okanagan as well. I should introduce myself in a way that's traditional. On my mom's side, as my mom is Kathy Condon Cyrus, and her parents are Smith and Margaret Dick Condon. And on my dad's side, Pete Cyrus, his mom and dad are Eli and Betty Cyrus. So it's important to introduce yourself, your grandparents, your parents, so that people know who you are and they can identify your family. So when you come back to these areas, it's important that you introduce yourself when you get back, and whether you're at the Chouak River or wherever you're at in those places. It was taught to me that you go down to the water and you shake hands with the water and you tell them who your name is, and so that it recognizes you, that you've returned. It's really important to do that. And I think as you go through life, it helps you maintain that connection to the land, to the water, and to understand that you are their relative, and you need to take care of them just as much as it takes care of you. When the Creator brought all these animals and plants together, like, hey, we've got this pitiful being coming. They won't be able to walk for a year once they're born. They can't feed themselves, and what are we going to do? And the Ntiti, the salmon, the Chinook was the first one to step up and say they can eat our bodies. We just ask that they, in return, have a feast and sing those songs to honor this gift that we're giving. And when they do that, we'll always return. And the same thing happened with the roots. The Spiegel, the bitter root, stepped up and offered up the same agreement. Then Shia, the Sarbusberry, and Scumkeast, the chief of the Four-Leggeds, they all made those promises and those commitments and those gifts to us. And it's important whenever we go back and we're in those ceremonies, to recognize them and sing those songs and recognize that renewal. And that's what I think is so impactful for me about those traditional ways when we talk about that connection. When they say Tumuhula, that's the rough translation of Mother Earth, but what it really is talking about is the cyclical life that's present in this area. And to be a good person, you have to be involved in that cycle. What are your responsibilities to those resources, to those things that help you sustain your life, the food that you eat, the water that you drink? We have a right to the water, but we also have a responsibility that we take care of the water in the best way possible. I think as humans, we tend to really sometimes just think about the world in our own perspective, and the world is revolved around human experience. When you go outside and there's hundreds of animals and plants that are coexisting on this planet, and we need to fully respect that and take that into account. When we exercise rights, that we exercise our responsibility too, as good stewards, as good people in this cycle of life, right? That so I feel that's one of the things that I just need to share when I talk with people, that it's important to fight for your rights, but it's also important to prepare yourself to carry out those responsibilities, to do the work necessary to make sure that those plants and animals are taken care of, just like you take care of your kids or your relatives, right? So I find that really important to do. And as I have thought about and really practiced these cultural traditions, my Aunt Elaine is a master basket weaver, traditional artist. When we gather those materials and she uses them, and we'd talk about a lot of these different things, and she would say, our people are the first biologists, the first botanists, the first wildlife managers, foresters. We had to know this information so that we could survive. She would talk about the cedar roots and how it's applied science over thousands of years. There's a reason why cedar roots, when you make your baskets, has a natural pesticide that keeps bugs away. It repels bugs. It preserves those foods in those baskets, and it won't rot. Like if you used fir trees or pine trees, those roots would disintegrate fairly quickly. Whereas you still see some of these cedar root baskets that were made 150 years ago, 200 years ago, you could still use them, no problem. And that applied science, that knowledge over those years, that traditional ecological knowledge, is so valuable and so important for us to know, but also to share. And I think it's something. I would listen to those elders in the language program. They talk about, the knowledge that we carry doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the next coming generations, and it's up to us to pass it down and share it, so that they'll have the tools to survive and to be good stewards of the land, good relatives to all the things that share in this cycle of life that's present in our area. A lot of what we do, I think, and it's proven, can be pretty wasteful. As a human species, we're so smart, but we can be so wasteful and destructive. So those, for me, I guess this is part of where I just talk about the future. The knowledge that you carry and how you pass that down to the coming generations. We also have an obligation to right some of those wrongs before we pass on to the next generation, so that they won't have as hard a time dealing with outdated hydropower facilities or outdated fossil fuel systems that are continuing to impact our globe with warmer water temperatures, warmer air temperatures, increased storms based on that water regime. It's all right there in front of us, and I think it's important for us to recognize that and to take action together. None of this is political. It's just, it is what it is, and this is what we need to do. And I think as we go forward and we continue to share knowledge and a lot of these learning lessons, hopefully that will eventually impact and change what we see, in how we develop public policy that supports a better environment. There's a change in the demographic here in the Valley too, and there's a lot more folks that really care about the environment, care about being good stewards. And I was talking with my coworker there, and we were discussing. We were talking about the election, but we're also talking about some of the frustration we have with federal agencies or other it's just taking so long. But what's important is just keep your mind on that work. What are your responsibilities? What are you working on? Salmon, water, and as long as you focus on those things, everything else will work out. It will show itself, and things will be made. It'll show you what we need to do to go forward. But I think we've got a really good head start here in the Valley. There's a lot of folks that share that concern and are beginning to understand their connection, to the land, but also their responsibilities of how do they take care of things. So, I would really love to see, not just in this valley, but in the region, more people rethink their relationship to the land, how that can impact their immediate health, their future health, and take a role in being a good steward. I think our society has not done a really good job of fostering that kind of understanding. And every day we like I said, we strive to get better and learn more, and I think that might be a good opportunity as we move forward as a society, how we bridge those divisions, those gaps. If we work on things that are important, that don't have political or undertone, like we're just working on the water, we're just working on the salmon. And I saw this really interesting, I think it was a Far Side cartoon, and there was a group of scientists sitting there, and they're like, well, what's going to happen if we improve the water and the air, and what if climate change is a farce? And it's like, well, you're gonna have cleaner water, you're gonna have better air, like the world's gonna be pretty nice. So I think that's something, going forward, how I would love to see us as a human species really take better action toward these things that we're impacting. And I'd also like to see more humor included in it, so that we can laugh at our mistakes, but also take action together and feel good about it.